I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996, I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone with the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on. I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest. Number 322.
I sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What the fuck is up? Welcome to another Already Dead, your favorite weekly parapolitical call-in variety show. I'm Jose Galison. I'm joined by the ever so beautiful Austin Picard. Yeah, we're here to do it. We're back for another one on the grandest of occasions, the election night.
5th of November.
Yeah, we're gonna get shit for numbers today. It'll roll in tomorrow. There's so many election streams going on right now. I actually tried to pop into one before this with Raven, because he did like an all-day timeline cleanse.
Hit me up too. I meant to.
Yeah, it's kind of like anyone popped in, and then I literally, when I got time to like popped in, their screen was dead, like black, and so I'm just sitting there for a while, like, what the fuck's going on? Did a little digging into it, and I'm like, oh, somehow now they ended up on Sam's live stream. So I'm like,
oh, are you serious?
Yeah. So I guess he bailed ship on that. He left it going, and then hopped over to Sam's. So yeah, I right when I was trying to pop in there, that's when that happened. So good on them though. So I don't know if Sam just saw, oh, they're streaming too. Let's merge up or whatever. But hey, whatever, cool. I mean, that's good.
Awesome.
Which I guess that's a good time for us to mention. Is it next week that we have Sam, or is it
the 18th on 18th, Monday?
So 2 weeks from now. Yeah. So sorry guys, won't be your normal Tuesday. Already Dead. Usually Tuesdays 9:30 Eastern. But yeah, that one will be on a Monday, so we'll be doing, and it'll be earlier too, won't it? What time are we going?
I think actually it's a half hour later at 7. So technically, later. Yep. So technically,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it'll be 10 Eastern for those who live in a time zone that matters. So,
how dare you, sir?
Yeah, which sucks a little bit. Whatever else to stay up a little bit later, but oh well. I'm basically kind of a bit of a housewife now anyway, so what's the big deal if I lose a little sleep? Yeah.
It's worth it for Tripoli anyway. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to having him on. So yes, solid guest gentleman from Nicholas Lee. Yes. Both of us, if you aren't aware, both of us have been on a show. Have you been on twice or you just been on once?
No, well, I went on just that once, and then he immediately hit me up to do the Only Conspiracy show that same week. So I ended up doing Friday.
So you did the one that was behind the paywall, because the Only Conspiracy is behind the paywall, right? Yeah, I've done that too. I did we did me and Top did one together. Yeah,
that's hilarious. I had no idea the format going in. I'm expecting, this typical approach, right? That I normally take. And then at the beginning, he's like, hey, man, we usually keep these to around a half an hour. And I'm like, oh, shit. How am I going to, compartmentalize all of this into some sort of comprehensive, outline? But it ended up working. I just, I remember I said something like I think I I just misremembered something and ended up saying that like it basically the point remained the same, the bottom line remained the same, but still it was like I ended up saying another individual was involved as far as being one of the bodies in
Oh
Guyana.
yeah.
And so I was all frustrated because it's only 30 minutes. And then somebody wrote like this progressive
Fitting Austin in a 30-minute format. Can you
yeah,
imagine?
it was insane. But this lady that lives in like San Francisco or something and like debunks cults. She writes up this article about how Sam is platforming white supremacists and
Wait,
like
for your
compared me to the
specific episode?
Klansman. Yeah. And this person didn't even like listen to the episode, right? And so there's no way they did because they
I
had
need
to have
more.
only heard
No,
a
I need
clip.
to know more information. What were you talking about in this
So
specifically?
basically it's about
Get a little more
James
specifics. Like, how
Earl
do we
Ray,
get? Is
right?
there any way that you can somehow, maybe if you weren't paying attention or misconstrued something, could be like, "Yep, white supremacy. That's what we're seeing right here."
Dude, I can't imagine that there's actually a way to make that connection. Definitely not an honest way to make that connection, but it was more so I think the fact that basically she's under the impression that the CIA would never have been involved in something like this, right? And that what happened at Jonestown. So the fact that I made the legitimate
Oh,
claim.
because there are people of a different race involved, and you're saying that
Yeah,
maybe they weren't just his little fuck slaves that did whatever he
right.
said, and maybe were trying to get out of it, and there was like undue influence. If anything, like I feel like your take on it gives them more agency and makes them more real people.
It
Like,
was very strange.
so
I'm
it's
telling
like,
you.
no, they were no. If you don't think they just mindlessly chimp out to fucking whatever Joan, fucking what? How did I forget his name?
Jim.
Yeah, Jim. Whatever Jim
Yeah.
says, like,
Right.
like you're a racist. That makes sense. Yeah, that totally checks out.
It is ridiculous. But I don't know. I mean, it kind of maybe she was backing off of the fact that I had just gone on to talk about Randy Weaver and
Oh,
yeah, yeah. So
so
who
I
knows, right?
connecting those threads. Oh, you're
Yeah.
sticking up for Randy Weaver.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's a
Hmm.
rough way to look at the world. Because I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess there are themes of that in there, and then I guess
Right.
if you're, but I don't get how you. I don't know. I guess making the association between that and then Jonestown, and just you saying that the CIA may have been involved and that it wasn't authentic. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. What do you don't think black people can fucking just be retards and just follow the leader? Like, what?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It doesn't make
It
sense
made
to me.
absolutely no sense, but I thought it was hilarious that when I saw Sam, whenever I went to see him do the special, when he recorded it at the Bourbon Room in Hollywood, I remember that like the first thing he said when he saw me was like, fuck that bitch, dude. She had an Adam's apple. You can't trust anybody with an you can't trust any woman with an Adam's apple. It was hilarious, but
Yeah.
that was his interpretation of that whole thing. But it was kind of hilarious because it really was just an attempt to, in my opinion, just muddy the waters and distract from the overall as far as the message itself
Mhm.
had nothing to do right with. I mean, I think there was a strange racial dynamic at play, but in no way was I sitting here making, speaking in certain terms and making extraordinary claims without any sort of like, I was attempting to hedge my bets and insulate
Yeah.
myself from, you know what I mean,
I
by
mean, there were only
providing.
like what 34 CIA agents tangentially
You're right.
connected or something to the whole thing. I
It's
mean,
so
obviously I
ridiculous.
made up that number to be clear,
Right, right.
but
I
when you
mean,
dig it,
procuring the land
yeah.
itself, everything about it was a CIA operation. There's no way around
Yeah,
it
I
in my
remember
mind.
for those who want to dig into it. Obviously, Austin, if you want to dig into it a little bit, he has done an episode on it. Then we also did a series on my show, so you can go check out the playlist. And yeah, we did. I don't know. I would guess probably in the realm of, I don't know how many parts we did in that, but probably 5 to 10 hours worth on it, Jonestown. And it
Yeah.
is like I just kept being like, "What the fuck? Really? Another Fed? Another Fed? Another Fed? Another Fed? No way! Another Fed?"
It's
Like
absurd.
that's basically the story of Jonestown. Just
It
you're
really
like,
is.
okay, and then here's this one guy, and oh yeah, his brother was a Fed. And then here's this one. Yep, their fucking wife was a Fed. You're like, dude, what the fuck is going on here?
Mhm.
That's very much the vibe you get from Jonestown. So go check
Oh,
that
yeah.
out. But yeah, speaking of nonsense, what's going on? Let me know in the chat, guys. I haven't really hardly paid attention at all. I popped into PBD stream real quick to see what was going on, and it sounds like the Trump winning. I don't know who's winning, guys. I
That's
don't
what
know.
I hear. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like. I think we got like something like half of the things come in so far.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I mean, but it wasn't like last time when
Yeah,
and then we get the little
exactly.
boop.
Uh-huh. That
Yeah.
was ridiculous. I just think that it seems like it'll be a little too difficult to pull that off, but
Yeah.
unless the whole end result and calculated goal potentially is, widespread dissent of some kind and political disruption. I mean, it's not the only issue is that like, you know, the actual dissidents in kind of in America that I see are very much like they seem to have the just entirely their foundation is based on misconceptions, right? So they're not even like approaching, right, the questioning the state in the proper way. This is, of course, my opinion. I mean, I just think that everyone seems to be contending and grappling with straw men for the most part, right? And they're not actually contending with the true issue at hand, right? And I think that really the underlying power structure is so much more sophisticated that it's far more sophisticated for the general public to even comprehend, I think. And I really do believe that has, we've seemingly been indoctrinated, mass indoctrinated, in a way to where we just are essentially we can't even imagine a world where an alternative exists and we don't have to rely solely on the state, right? And so that alone is just like it's very frustrating for me specifically, especially because like I mentioned earlier in a tweet, just because it's like for me, it's just another Tuesday, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not. I focus much more on Already Dead
Yeah.
and the Underclass podcast than I do
I didn't
on
vote, guys. I'm
election
sorry. I
results.
didn't vote.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I heard everyone's gotta vote all over the timeline, all in real life too. I went back to work for the first day since all my shit's popped off. It's because for those who aren't aware, went down to part time. But yeah, just a lot of vote. Oh, were you gonna vote? Vote. You're like, oh, okay, this is all right.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, whatever. Have your fun little ritual, I guess. But like,
exactly.
I don't know. It's a little gay.
It really is. Yeah, and I mean, when essentially, man, like every 4 years can't be the most important election of our lifetimes. Like, it's just, I'm tired of seeing these ridiculous statements and hollow, empty rhetoric that essentially it's only following this path of least resistance that everyone, when it boils down to in the moment, it almost seems like the programming is too much to reject. Like it's just the average individual is almost just falling into the trap, just this repetitive cycle, and to me, I just think that we should spend much more of our time, right, like focused on creating independent alternative systems that just prioritize opting out of really. I just think that it's important to like limit your dependence, and make sure that like if you don't remove the mask, right, like the meme, and you discover this fascist system that essentially is like a form of modern feudalism where we are really in debt bondage as debt slaves to the elite oligarchs. Like I don't see independence or liberty within this framework. I just don't, and I don't
Real
know.
quick, I bring it
Yeah.
up this tweet because it was something you said earlier. Just it's something I was thinking about before. This actually spurned a thought. This is kind of somewhat what inspired my tweet earlier. That anyone who follows my thing, it was like the little NPC thing, and it was
Yeah, I
like,
love it.
and it was like I forget what I even said. Something along the lines of like, oh, if my person doesn't get voted in, then it'll be something super duper bad will happen. And it was I forget even the second part. The second part was like and it's super duper important that you vote, because it's like, I mean, whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've heard arguments that are compelling to be like, oh, this way, this person, that person. But like, if you're really going to really try to make some sort of value system of like what this is worth, like if you try to quantify like how much your vote matters, and then also to what difference your vote will, like if this person actually get voted in, what will happen? Like if we play the counter narrative of both sides, kind of like if Kamala gets in, what happens? If Trump gets in, and like, is it really that much different? Like, I know everyone likes to act like, oh my God, it's the end of the world if Kamala gets elected. Oh my God, it's the end of the world if fucking Trump gets elected. But it's like, most of the time it's like, that's not even really the case. Like I know my wife's like telling me about like a lot of her friends are like worried that if Trump gets in, it's like about abortion. Like it's a huge, all the women's big issue is abortion. Like it's where they're all freaking out about. But it's like, I mean, if you even understand the dynamic of what's at play, it's like he's not. I mean, if the Republicans get in, they're not going to fuck with your abortion.
Right.
So, like,
they only care about the right to kill their babies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But this kind of inspired that, because it's like I mean, we have Ian Carroll here, which, I mean, I don't know. I like some of his stuff. I mean, I got to clown him a little bit here, because it is like he put it. This is, maybe it was just like the timing was bad, because this is right around. This was today, and I don't know if it was yesterday or today that probably yesterday. Mike Pompeo came out, and he was like speaking for Trump, and this is kind of the last guy that Trump kind of rolled out for his campaign. One of the last people. So it's kind of weird. I find it odd, the timing of rolling Mike Pompeo out like this as a person, like when it's kind of like the last minute. So it's kind of like you kind of keep him at arm's length, and the last minute you're like, oh yeah, he was here. That way later it's like, you're like, yeah, Mike, he was always in the mix. Yeah, like we didn't we weren't distancing ourselves from him. What are you talking about? Like right. That's kind of the vibe you get. It was kind of always up in the air. Like he kind of talked a little shit about neocons and stuff, and it's like, but like Mike Pompeo's just kind of sitting off in the corner, like, don't think about me. Right. And so then we have Ian Carroll saying, I just voted for Trump because I don't want to go to jail for posting information the CIA doesn't like, which is like, that's kind of what I was getting at, like some super duper bad. I'm like, I don't necessarily. I mean, maybe. I mean, honestly, I find it just as possible probably under either administration.
Oh yeah.
Really. Yeah. I mean, but it's like, I don't think that Trump getting elected is this like for sure way, nor do I think if Kamala gets in, is it really something that's likely to happen. I mean, maybe certain examples like Assange. He said he goes in about how he had to drive 4 hours a night and camp out in my car to do it. Now breakfast in a 4-hour drive to beautiful Eagle, Idaho. And it's like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, that's cool, I guess. And like, there is an argument for there being an importance to vote, but like, I just would say like quantifiably, I mean, whatever, it's not my time. So like, I guess if you don't value your time that much, 4 hours, like, and I know I found that a little ridiculous. Like, how is there no polling station closer? But either way, let's say this is all legit. It's like, dude, you drove fucking 4 hours, camped out in your car for a single vote. Like, like, I don't know. It just seems like it's the one day of the year, and every 4 years, where they kind of invert your priorities. You're like, I don't know, just because this is an option, it's like, I don't know, maybe if it was easy, sure. Like, there's a quantifier. Yeah. I just think it's just like, I don't know, it breaks people's brains. Like, just think about, is that really worth 4 hours of your time and sleeping overnight somewhere?
That's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's your value call to make, but it seems a little ridiculous to me. So, and then to top it all off, Dave says Trump closed out his campaign with a former CIA director who plotted to kill Julian Assange for posting information the CIA didn't like. So it's like the irony here. It's like, I don't know. I don't think he's a great white savior. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are definitely perks. I think it like is going to really kind of really fucking put the boot on like really emphasizing and making it clear and kind of just kind of doing that final little breaking of the neck of the mainstream media. Like just the fact that like I don't think that they're going to be able to play off of him like they used to. So they're not going to be able to get the crazy ratings. And I think they're going to have destroyed themselves to such a degree that it's just people have basically just moved on and they become a nothing. Whereas if we run the counter narrative where Kamala wins, I do think then it probably becomes this. Now they have someone in the president. They can still kind of play pretend LARP. This person's we're going to talk to the president. We're going to talk to the administration because it's like obviously they're still going to have all the same connects. But it's like with that, like if Trump gets in, I really do think it's just like the age of the old style media is just done. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
done either way,
He's
but it's
he's
like
he's
kind of
definitely
just
winning
like
right now.
double tapping it. Like if Trump gets in, like you're done, bitch.
Right.
Like,
He's winning right now. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he's leading by quite a lot. Trying to find the won't show me the polls. It's like it doesn't want to show me.
Yeah, I just think that they always inevitably they accomplish what the other cannot, right? And I think that that is by design. And I think that the reason that the system's structured in this way is right to control the outcome in exactly that fashion. And so I just don't understand how you can be a right-wing God King and have such bad instincts when it comes to, right, gun legislation. I mean, even abortion, right? I mean, so it's like it's not like he's actually, going out there and really cracking down on abortion as the narrative is portrayed, right? But it's kind of ridiculous when you actually look at what he believes in as far as his policy positions, as far as what he says, right? You listen to him, and his instinctual reaction to Vegas was, right, grab up the guns, ban the bump stock. We'll deal with the Supreme Court later, right? And I mean that's just a fact of life. So let's hope that he's changed since then. But right, but to then see Pompeo, yeah, of course, the
Yeah.
swamp creatures reemerge.
Which then the big fear is this, that the right will go along with things a Democratic president never could. They'll get them to go along with it. Yeah,
Exactly, brother.
it's like look at all the, and honestly, I feel like there's been a lot of good progress in this MAGA movement and like the America First, where a lot of them have been pretty damn good. But it's like all it takes is one fucking shitty Trump fucking trying to be the Moshiach rolling through and fucking fuck it all up. That's like all it really takes. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic and maybe they'll pull it together. I don't know. I got 188.99 Trump in the lead. How far, or how much is reported? Like, how far are we into? I don't know. I don't know if you're able to see that wherever you're looking, Jules.
Yeah. Let's see. He's won. So they have to get to 270, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds right. Yeah. I don't fucking know. Whatever. What
yeah.
gay bureaucratic game are we playing today? Is it 60% of the vote?
Hey,
Like,
bro.
what? I don't know.
right.
I didn't vote either. So.
Yeah. I'm just playing. Yeah, I know.
1, 2, 3.
180.
She's won about 10 states to his 17 or 8. He's won the whole South.
Okay, the big thing is
So far,
the swing
from what it
states.
looks
So
like.
I guess the big thing would be like what swing states have voted, and I guess there always is the outside chance that like some state got turned entirely, but like that's usually, I mean, I guess there's some that are like purple, so it's up in the air, but that's usually kind of doesn't happen too much. So, yeah, I don't know. All right, yeah, let's know if you find out more.
Yes, sir.
I know you did want to talk about OKC a little bit today, so lay it on me, pal. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of Reconasciuto. I can never say his fucking name. The particularly Gunderson's take on it, which I've never read. I'll have to. What did you get that like? Where are you seeing his report? Like, was it like, because I saw you show me the report or
way
something
back
that he
machine.
drew up? Is that
Yeah.
it? Did he
that's
have
all I
other
can
coverage? I don't
remember
know, because I'm not even entirely sure.
Well,
Did he have like
he-
a regular show at the time, or it was just like a writer?
Yep. And
Oh,
well,
he kind of
and-
was like a Bill Cooper in it type thing too.
yeah.
Okay, so
And he co-wrote a book, I believe, Bloody Sunday or Bloody Wednesday. What was it? Something. I think that he co-wrote that. But either way, it was largely based on his report, I believe. But it's man, it was Tanya Yaki, and when she tweeted about this, just mentioning the fact that she would really love for someone to dig a little deeper into the Gunderson report on the OKC bombing, because she always at least, I don't want to speak for her, but it seems like she said in the past that she had been somewhat convinced by Ted when just through her, at least that he was at least credible enough in this fashion. And she at least seemed to believe that he believed what he was saying to her.
Yeah.
Right.
that
and,
report you found, how many pages was it? I wonder if you can like find
It's
it
fairly
online
long.
and, like if it's like
Yeah.
because it almost seemed like it'd be like a booklet length. Like I could almost get it somewhere or something.
Yeah, it was
kinda
at
almost
least
like
like-
Anatomy of the State length, kind of roughly is what it looked like to me.
Yeah. long for a report, but not long for a book, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's only like 269 or something pages, something like that.
Mm.
And but that was
You say 269 pages?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, that's a fucking book, dude. Like,
Basically, I mean, like that's why like I
I don't
try
know.
to
Why I, thought,
kind of just,
I glanced at it. You should. I saw 50 somewhere. I thought that was way shorter. Yeah.
it might just be like I just think it's kind of ridiculous that it was so like you had to find either a PDF or you had to get this Wayback Machine Internet Archive version of it. It's kind of more difficult to get your hands on at this point, which is a little strange. But before we jump right into that, though, I did think that a brief aside is it was hilarious. I saw William post about Kamala Harris and her sister. Did you see that post? That
No, I didn't see that. No.
this was interesting because um, at the very least, it kind of raises much more suspicion in regard to. I think it's very obvious at this point that when you look at politicians who are, let's say, just in the fold and even sort of right on the landscape as a political player that is viable in this moment, they seem to have connections to these circles of political sexual blackmail, right? Which include the Epstein network, of course, Diddy at this point now, and then really the Pizzagate network, which I think is very overlooked, right? Because it's been overwhelmingly dismissed. But it seems like James Alefantis was much more, and he and David Brock were much more in the thick of things, right, than people are aware of. And you bring up Mike Pompeo. It's interesting to me because he was. I believe he was around the CIA for Trump, so he was it was him who was negotiating with Assange behind the scenes before they really kind of pursued an all out right as far as just all out targeting of Assange in general and kind of like the takedown of Julian from the embassy. All of that happened and all of that really occurred abruptly after this negotiation process fell apart behind the scenes between Assange and Pompeo and the Trump administration. And I found it all interesting because it was around the election when all of this was happening. And if you remember, this is when you have right did we just talked about this last week, all these strange occurrences really kind of um you know just being exposed around election season, right? And so you
Hmm.
have what was the individual's name who was killed and outside the DNC, and that what was his name? Damn it, I'm forgetting it right now. But
Oh
he was
fuck.
he had the
It
DC
wasn't
staffer.
Foster, was it? No, it was.
No, I
I know
can't believe
who.
I'm forgetting the
There's
name.
like. I always mix him up with Vince Foster. It's not Vince Foster. It's fuck, whatever. Maybe the chat
Either
will think,
way,
but we have a smart chat. But
right? He
oh,
was
by
a
the way, real quick aside,
yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to the audience because I've had multiple times. I believe it's usually in Already Dead's where they've suggested looking into Seth Rich.
There you go.
Yeah,
Thank you
someone
so
said
much.
Seth something, and that reminded me Rich.
Yeah,
But
that's it.
someone brought up the Boys on the Tracks thing, and holy fucking shitballs! They were the I've heard that like a few times from the chat. That you go check that out. It's fucking wild story. Like
Interesting.
I don't know how I want to dig into it, but I need to dig into it one of these days. Say what, Jules?
Wait, what story are you talking about?
Boys on the Tracks. It's like in Arkansas. It ties into
In Mena, Arkansas.
Oh my
yeah, it's Mena,
god.
Arkansas shit. It was during
Okay,
Clinton's
so,
time in there, and there were these kids that
Hold on.
he just booted
No,
himself out.
sorry.
You're good.
So my wife's family is from Little Rock, and dude, I've heard her grandmother talk about how they would go to these parties with people from their church, and some of these people were in the Senate and stuff like back in the 90s.
Hmm.
And they would talk about there being cocaine. And
Dude.
guys, I'm not suicidal.
Yeah.
But
Barry
dude,
and the boys
This feels
hanging
like
out
Larry
in Mena.
King shit. Yeah, that's what
and
it
just
sounds like.
little
Larry King
weird
shit.
energy. But dude,
Yeah.
Lawrence
that Mena,
King.
Arkansas stuff, that
Right.
I got into that when I first kind of woke up. I heard about that, and I think it was on a Tinfoil Hat episode.
For those who don't get what we're saying, that's
yeah.
that's like drug trafficking. That's Barry
Oh, yeah.
Seal. That's like legit.
Exactly.
Like there's confirmed stuff there, but it's like obviously there's speculative stuff like Boys in the Tracks, which seems to be connected. Kind of like spoiler alert, connected to that whole shit, that whole fucking drug, and essentially the people in this local area off these kids, and basically the whole legal system works together to cover it up. And it's like so many people died as well in this, like other suicided people on top of it. And it's like one of these ones that when you dig into, it's pretty clear this was tied into that. And it was just covering up. Like these were officials involved in the like they were on the take of some sort of CIA op is what it seems to be.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like insane that you're like there was like probably almost certainly handshake deals, and this was a officially unofficial thing, likely on a pretty grand scale, to the part where local local people and fucking local like politicians were in on the take of like just be like, oh yeah, just kill people. Like, well, the government says so because it's like somehow connected to some government op, so that makes it okay.
Yeah.
Like, insane. Yeah,
it really is, man. And doing the Barry Seal episode, like just that and Danny Castellero alone with right realizing the Mina operation and then understanding the scope of, let's say, like the Cuban training camps all throughout the domestic South leading up to the JFK assassination, which is very interesting because the Bay of Pigs all happened because basically Howard Hughes had been tapped by the executive branch, and they were utilizing intelligence agencies, right? So the CIA was deeply involved with Howard Hughes in this private endeavor to essentially create these training camps for Cuban refugees, right? And they were essentially training them as operatives for the Bay of Pigs op and several other different operations that they were performing at the time. But when JFK and RFK, they were not aware of this policy, right? And it was already well underway since Nixon was vice president. And he was the one who called up his buddy, Howard Hughes, and said, hey, would you conduct this policy? Because we need to actually, target and inevitably assassinate Fidel Castro. We have to get this guy. We have to remove this thorn from our side. And that was essentially what happened, is that basically Nixon hit up Howard Hughes, and then they all decided and I found it very interesting because John Foster Dulles was Eisenhower's vice secretary of state. And that was when Nixon was Eisenhower's VP. So it's like, of course, these people are swimming in the same circles.
By the way, Namrock's pointing out they had the medical examiner say the kids smoked so much weed that they fell asleep on railroad tracks and didn't wake up when the train rolled up. And it was like, because like essentially what happened is these people, obviously allegedly, they stabbed them. I think stabbed. One of them was stabbed a fuckload, and they just laid him on the fucking tracks. I think even in a tarp or something, if I remember correctly. So it's even more bizarre. You'd think you just leave the body there, and they were just hoping that the train would fuck up the evidence, but that's not how it works.
That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, like it throws body parts all over the place. But remember that they had this crazy medical examiner that just kept coming up with crazy fucking reasons why, like this. What's with all the stab things? Why was that? Like, and this was the same medical examiner that got called for other crazy things that happens in this case later. Like someone I think gets decapitated, and the head ends up somewhere else, and like I forget the excuses it made. Like the head at first, the head wasn't there on one of these people. I think it was one of the suicided people later or something. I say suicided. I guess suspicious death people later in the story. One of them, their head comes off, and the medical examiner said the dog ate it. And then they found the head later in like a dumpster or some shit later somewhere else. And then like he ends up, so he's then tried to use the excuse that, well, then maybe I think he said the dog might have brought it there. It was insane. It's like it's just borderline unbelievable. But yeah, this is a guy who was in a lot of suspicious other cases. Seems to almost be like the state's guy to go, yep, that was clearly a suicide. Or accidental death.
Right. Just another cover up. It's exactly what happened, right, with Franklin and the Finders and every single case that we've covered, right? And it's whenever the operation gets exposed, as long as it connects back to the higher echelons of the
Sorry,
establishment.
this guy's right. Literally, this guy was Egyptian, and his reasoning when people would question would be like, "Well, they're just racist. Like that's why everybody hates them. They all have issues with them. It's because
That's
they're racist."
hilarious.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, that makes sense because it's exactly why we couldn't trust the medical examiner in Guyana because right, they're just Guyanese, they don't know how to count,
Mm.
and, so that's, it's typical. That's
Yeah.
just kind of the playbook. It's what they do when they're launching the cover-up
Yeah.
effort,
I mean, this
but
was a little bit atypical, but this
oh,
is a
yeah,
little
no
out here.
doubt. I mean, but
Yeah.
not at all as far as, like, I've noticed they utilize, train tracks for well, at least they have in the past, for attempting to
Yeah.
cover up deaths such as this, and that includes, like, one of the members of the People's Temple who was, really kind of, like, verbalizing his dissent from the group, just before they had left and fled to Guyana. He was found and he was discovered, and one of the concerned relatives had, really kind of pushed for the exposure and disclosure of what exactly had happened to his son because he was found just he had been hit by a train, right? But basically they had strangled him and murdered him and then tried to put him on the train tracks, but the train never came, and so it didn't actually. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. But
Yeah.
yeah, it seems to be a pattern. But the point I was making though was just simply that allegedly the presidential contender sister, Maya Harris, all right, so Kamala's sister, once fronted a fundraiser with two DC swamp creatures, says William Ramsey, and that was Podesta and James Elefantis.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. And so there's a
All comes
picture of
back
this. Yeah.
around.
John
Yeah.
Podesta, campaign chair. You know,
Which
which is
Olifantes, I don't know if you want to jog their memory. I think we mentioned him briefly earlier, but for
Mhm.
those who may not have, who may have forgot that connection, who was he? Obviously,
Yeah.
Podesta was, I forget what role he did, but he was basically Hillary's right hand man.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we have the Podesta email leaks, which that's where we get a lot of the weird coded language like pizzas, hot dogs,
Yeah.
all the different little terms they use, which seem very suspicious. Extrapolate from that what you will. And then Olafante, who was he?
Well, he owned Comet Ping Pong Pizza, right?
Mm.
Right there in DC, which was the site of this huge scandal, which
But Austin, they didn't have a basement.
yeah, that's what I hear,
Yeah.
man. That's what everyone
Yeah.
tells me. So it's been debunked. So we just have to avert our eyes and act as if there isn't some active, ongoing child sex trafficking ring in the capital of our nation,
No.
right? But it's okay. It must be the reason that they instantly took down my Pizzagate episode because I covered Laura Silsby and how she helped traffic Haitian children, right? Through the Hillary Clinton Foundation, and then just so happened to be bailed out by Bill Clinton and placed on the, and as far as just being responsible for the Amber Alert program in the US domestically. So, I mean, not at all should that be a surprise, right?
No,
And so,
not at all.
yeah, Seth Rich and the DNC
Mhm.
link, like that alone, I think is worth just kind of reflecting and realizing the timing of it all, right? Because it's like clearly, allegedly, Seth Rich, some DNC staffer who was a supporter of Bernie and was completely disillusioned by the primary process, being stolen, and so he got upset. He decides to plug in his thumb drive and download all these documents and then leak them. And he's trying to. He actually, there's even evidence, according to Seymour Hersh, that he's trying to at least protect the information, but also shop the information, right? So he was shopping it to certain, media entities, individuals within the media landscape that would potentially help break this story. And yeah, that didn't seem to be in the cards for Seth Rich. And I think that he was just kind of sacrificed, on the altar, right, of the permanent establishment. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that I'm starting to witness is that yeah, it's these are unelected bureaucrats. This is an oligarchy, right? This is a feudalist system. In no way will they leave it up to I would just like
So real quick
chance. Really?
to back it up. So
Yeah.
the connection here is Kamala's sister once ran did a what with Olifantes and Podesta? Some sort
So
of event?
she runs a fundraising event,
Okay, where was
right?
it hosted at?
Well,
Comet
it
Ping Pong?
looks like, let's see. First of all, it's very strange as far as the symbolism involved in the pamphlet. But
Yeah.
yeah, it says, "Please join us for pizza for"
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Pizza for Hillary, and this was a fundraising
Oof.
event for the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Oof, closed
And
event, I would assume.
John Podesta was the campaign chair, Maya Harris, senior policy advisor, special guest, pizza chef, James Olifantis of Comet Ping Pong in support of Hillary for America, which was a foundation, Sunday, April 10th, 2016
Specializes
from
in
one.
spirit cooking.
Seriously, man. I mean, it's so disturbing when you go through just his Instagram alone, let alone like the Farmer L and the Podesta emails and the links to Marina Abramovich and the whole thing. It to me, it implicates this overall network as being sort of you have to be I would imagine you have to be tapped by this network in order to have any sort of leverage and rise to any sort of a position of power, you know?
I just think people need to read Eye of the Chicken Hawk because I think once you start understanding the methodologies of these people, you start then seeing it. So it sounds crazy when you're like, well, look at this pizza, this, that. You're like, this is how this is how it's been done in the past. Like, there are confirmed examples of people doing this shit where they put out classified ads or they do, and it's like things in plain sight, but it's coded language. But it's like once you know, and then you see the actual like paper trails of these people doing this and that, you realize like, oh, that's what this is. Like this is like something wild's going on here, and it's like. So I don't know. It's like I think this shit happens in our face sometimes, and that's how it is. I mean, like I was listening to one of the newest Y files, and they're talking about the Bohemian Grove, and like the idea that like they have recorded them doing like mock sacrifices at Bohemian Grove, which like how the fuck do we know it's mock? Like,
Right.
Would it really be that crazy? I don't know. I guess I'm just rambling now. It's just
No, not at all, man. I mean, when
Austin,
Go
sorry.
ahead, buddy.
Well, I was going to say, so apparently they burned the effigy of Moloch, which is a Canaanite representation of Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, represented by the owl. Because people think it's Baal and Moloch. Baal just means Lord. And that goes into the etymology. But apparently, when they burned the effigy, there's a real sacrifice going on in a chamber underground, right underneath it, just like in the White House when they're doing the induction of, or I think that's the word, I don't know, of the president. Apparently, beneath him, they're performing an Osirian ritual to Osiris, and the president takes on this deity.
I hate to be the skeptic.
It's just
what are you basing this off of?
Well, no, this is just that I've heard.
Okay, you just heard the great. I just didn't know. I didn't even mean it kind of saying maybe you know something I don't. I don't know.
Man, this isn't fact, but I just said apparently, this may be what happens, right? You got to take it into consideration when it's talked about because they do participate in these rituals of old.
Oh yeah,
these ancient mystery schools. So
exactly, buddy. That's why I always found it interesting the timing of things because we mentioned with the ultimate evil, right? Like all of those sacrifices were ritual sacrifices, and they were performed around certain dates, which were certain dates that were satanic holidays, right? Like Luciferian esoteric holidays that held some sort of significance to their ideological belief system, like
Right.
the rites of Ishtar and Molech, and like essentially there's specific timing for these events to hold and harness the power that's allegedly the ritual possesses with if performed properly or whatever the context. And that's why I've heard to Jules' point, I've heard many different researchers come down to basically boil it down to the timing of some of these manufactured crises, like let's say school shootings that have occurred at specific times of the year, have basically been to this sort of initiatory process. The rites of Ishtar. It's this and Molech, and it's like this. Like he had mentioned, right? These ancient teachings from these mystery schools that tend to fall under this occult, esoteric, ideological framework that I will say I was never aware of until I started digging deeper into at least what these individuals believe who are participating in these just extraordinary crimes that are incomprehensible.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Real
When
quick,
I say
guys,
that they're
let's
taking on an
go ahead.
entity, like they're taking on the energy of that, and not saying like they're becoming
Yeah.
Osiris.
Right.
But
No, I
from what
understand,
I've
buddy.
read, and Jose, if you look, there's a picture, an old
Mm-hmm.
picture. There's something underneath the White House. Like there's a building underneath there. For sure.
Hell yeah.
I'm open
find
to
that
the
picture.
idea. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
No,
Sick
it
shit's
wouldn't.
probably going on. But guys, let's take a second. Let's let the chat know, or let the audience know today's episode was brought to you by Nadeau Shave Co. If you're tired of that expensive nonsense that fucks your face up, that multi-blade scam, these are your guys. You can go back to traditional shave. You don't need that expensive nonsense. You can shave just like your grandpa used to. Upgrade your shaving system today. The standard issue, it comes with one safety razor and a box of 100 stainless steel razor blades. Like, if you only shave like once a week, dude, that's going to last you like years. Like, think that through. It's $75 to shave for an entire year. This is assuming these 100 blades, last you, or only does a year. Most people, let's be real, it's going to last you longer. But if you shave every single day, you may want to consider the Quarter Shave Club. That puts you about 25 cents per replacement blade. Go to NadeauShaveCo.com. Use Jose at checkout for 10% off the entire order. Support them because they support us, and also because they support Liberty. They're a COVID mandate refusing company. That's how this company was born. But with that, guys, we're going to transition over to the call-in portion of the show. You can call in at 941-281-5857. You want to shoot the shit with us. But in the meantime, I don't know how we got from here when this started with with Gunderson, but let's figure out how we circle that back around. I don't know if there was a dot you were trying to connect, or if you just got sideswiped there.
No, I just
either way, I'm passing the ball to you, Gunderson.
Okay, sounds good. I just
Pull
basically
up that
do what?
that book.
Oh yeah. Pull up the Internet Archive. Yeah, that report because yeah, essentially I just wanted to make the point that it was very strange that Kamala Harris's sister was hosting this fundraising event, but not at all at the same time. So what I was digging into though is this Ted Gunderson report on the Oklahoma City bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, and basically what I thought was kind of the most interesting portion of what I've read so far, because I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but what I found, other than really the what I think is the core of the first portion, which is really just contending with the blast itself and kind of like attempting to discredit the Anfo bomb as the potential cause. But it was really, once I got to the portion of Michael Riconosciuto, which it should be by around
right. 50 of 52. They only had 50. Oh, I was looking at the bottom there. Where are you getting that there's like hundreds of pages in the sucker?
Yeah, I might have just misconstrued it by the.
I was like, Jesus Christ, man, he wrote a whole damn book.
Right. I think it was just I had seen it's 219 slides, so I was wrong on the page.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And what
But,
page do you want me to go to?
Go to page 18. It should be
Okay.
you'll see Michael Riconosciuto on the right side. It'll say it like toward the top on the right side once you get to that page. And basically, once Ted Gunderson gets into this, it really the details are what stood out to me because and again, it's plausible that individuals are capable of making up excruciating details, right? And creating, sophisticated lies that are very difficult, to as far as if you're a disinformation operative, right, and your goal is to attempt to at least lend plausible credibility to an alternative narrative that you know to be false, right? Well, I guess we need to consider individuals are capable of this because it's definitely happened in the past. But what I do think, yeah, the octopus guy, yes. But what's interesting is that, of course, he comes up in the Oklahoma City bombing report of Ted Gunderson, and he's very much around the Oklahoma City bombing as far as these extraordinary claims are concerned. But he's been, in my opinion, if this is correct and accurate, he's had one of the most interesting, extraordinarily unique lives that you could imagine, right? Because we'll get into it. Because Gunderson,
Did I pass it?
I don't know. I'm not sure,
'Cause it
buddy.
doesn't start at the first page, when you open it up, and
Right.
then the page numbers kind of quit showing up. I don't know.
The slide number 18. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, go
Slide
back
number
toward
18. Okay, here,
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
use
my bad, my
this.
bad. Yeah, just use that, bud.
Nice.
But
This.
so
Got
There
it.
you
there
go,
you
Michael
go.
Ranasciuto, right there.
Yep, there it is. So, of course, Gunderson, he realizes that the official word being released by the government sources was that a fertilizer bomb was used to destroy the building. And so this is when he really covers the Michael Riconosciuto portion and introduces this individual actor to the report. And so keep in mind, he has just gone over in very excruciating detail reasons why the Anfo bomb should be questioned, right? Different. He had been having discourse with various explosives experts and individuals at institutions that were willing to have conversations with him and were sending him documents. It was very interesting and at least worth reading. And it essentially it kind of aligns with the general pardon and what he was explaining in many ways, as far as there were clearly secondary explosives, right? The notion being that it seems as if there were explosive devices that were on different structural pillars in the building itself. But
Hey, Riconosciuto, he was this is kind of jogging my memory on him a little bit. I'm kind of skimming some of this. I believe his dad was OSS, right? Like, so he was like
that's what they're
raised.
saying, yeah,
He was like dyed in the wool, like glowy. Like he
exactly,
was generational glowy, essentially. Like
exactly.
deep level OSS shit, like
Military intelligence,
CIA precursor shit, like
yes,
that
and
type of stuff.
which means inevitably that ties him to MK Ultra.
Yeah,
Because
which
people are
I just want to give people. We've talked about on the show. I want to give you kind of what we're alluding to, because a big thing with Riconosciuto, and he comes up in other stuff. We mentioned the octopus scandal and like other things. But the thing is, like, the people within that hang out in these realms tend to, like, what do we do with Riconosciuto? Like, he says some shit. Sometimes he says some crazy shit. Sometimes he says stuff you're like, that is wild, but it's so genius it might be true. He said stuff that's been like, and he is clicked up, and it seems like he's been burnt by these people. So it's
that's
like,
what it seems like, buddy.
is he could, it's always like this, like, you never know. As deep as this guy was, it's hard to ever trust anything, because you're like, was he just like a fucking spook? Like a full, like, always a spook, or like like, is there some other tale behind the scenes that we're missing that would really color in the context of what he is in relation to the spooks at this point in time? Like, he could still be getting fucked over by them, but still like have his own reasons for just seeding misinformation or not being entirely truthful. It's always hard to read, and it's the same issue with Gunderson. And and the fact that you have Gunderson and Reconnaissance clicking up, it also is like it kind of solidifies both worldviews of like, or both views, to where you're like, this is legit. It kind of solidifies if you're looking at it that way, if you're like, especially if you're really set on believing it that way, or if you're set on being too skeptical and not believing anything you say, it's also going to solidify that view. They're like, well, oh, look, the fucking glowies are glowing together now.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, of course. Like, fucking Reconnaissance and fucking Gunderson, that fucking glows. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or you could be like, look at these motherfuckers. Like, Reconnaissance, I can't remember. Like, he did a ton of time, I think. So I forget the specifics.
Well,
of
he
it,
definitely went away, and it was all on these drug charges. Of they really try to make it out to be that he was manufacturing amphetamines, but they made him out to be this junkie, kingpin. Essentially, it's like, it's really ridiculous, in my opinion, and especially when you realize that as skeptical as we should be of Michael Reconnaissance, he does seem to have some sort of expertise.
McDirt brought up he's the one who put the backdoor in Promise, according to Reconnaissance.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's
like
the connection to Danny Castellero,
which
the
ties
connection
into
to
that. It also has the connections, obviously, to Maxwell. So the whole Epstein network and everything. So.
Yes. He even has connections to Omar Abdul-Rahman and the individual CIA trained asset who committed the 93 World Trade Center bombing. And I'm starting to really what this provides, if this is accurate, it just falls perfectly into place with the puzzle pieces already just perfectly orchestrated, to fit into place. Because honestly, man, it's starting to make sense that the World Trade Center bombing, you have the Oklahoma City bombing in less than 2 years later, right? And they get into the fact that, so really, I think it's important that we kind of go through this, because it's not that long at all. And as far as his portion of this report, because it gets into exactly what we're talking about as far as
you want to read the entire thing. I mean, because
it's not that, it's really not too
just
long,
these
honestly.
few paragraphs, or is it continue on the next page? Because I really wanted to. Oh, it says see Exhibit A. If I can find where Exhibit A.
Yeah, it's only.
I wanted to dig into. I want to dig into what they're talking about with hydrodynamic gaseous fuel device. Because if I recall correctly, he was proposing it was the bomb that like essentially somehow saturated the air with some sort of explosive of some sort and then ignited type thing. And this is I forget it. Like one of the signs of like before it kicks off is some people would see like. Almost like staticky, almost like they would see like sparks or something prior. So it's like that was the one that like I remember when I was reading Hoffman's book on this, I was like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? And there were some people who there were supposedly, according to Hoffman's book, I never really dug into the weeds to look into the 302s of the people who said it or whatever the fuck. So I'm kind of to some extent taking Hoffman's word there. But I remember there were claims that there were eyewitnesses who saw this very specific thing, which is like weird. And I think there might, I don't know, I forget the details. It's weird because there also I might be conflating it with there were multiple different theories going around this time. So it's like kind of different weird, exotic things it could be. And the thing is that makes this like, a lot of people do that in doubt is then Rick Sharrow was one of the first people who wrote an article, and it was like a former ATF guy, if I recall correctly. And Rick Sharrow wrote like bombs, I forget the fucking name of essentially, he wrote this whole article kind of kicking down strawmen essentially and pointing out to all these different like reasons why this type of thing, like essentially pointing to some of the more ridiculous ones being proposed out there, and then used it to kind of be like, look at all you silly doubters out there doubting it was an info bomb. And it's like, when all these other things are so retarded, and you're like, well, they're kind of picking the more ridiculous ones. I think this might have been one of them. I haven't read that article by him. But the point being is a lot of people say it's like these theories were used to then discredit the, like say things like C4, like C4 in the building. Like people with more like what would make I guess more conventional outside takes or differing takes.
Interesting.
But you could also bury something in the absurd, and let's say the electrohydrodynamic gaseous fuel device was used.
Right.
You could also then throw that in Rick Sherrill's one and be like, look how ridiculous this is.
Exactly, dude.
So it's like
100%.
I don't know. There's like layers to how they could fuck with you.
How
So it's
else
like people are
would
like,
they-
was Mike? Some people will imply that Mike was planted to put out this one to make people look fucking super
Right.
schizo. Like, like what?
Or-
What the fuck do you think this was?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely, man. Yeah, and it really is like this is what makes this so frustrating and almost impossible to contend with, because you can't come out the other side speaking in certain terms, right?
Yeah.
That's the difficult part. But it is also what I think we should consider more than anything is just the plausible nature of this.
Yeah.
I think it's just so important to at least like not entirely dismiss it off the cuff because this strange spook, right? And it's like to me, wouldn't the sources that you would almost be forced to rely on in when it comes to operations such as this, right? Wouldn't they always inevitably center around individuals such as Michael Reconasciuto? It kind of makes sense, right? It's like
Yeah.
you never get the perfect source.
Yeah,
That's not
this
how
is,
these
as Doctor 420 says, and that's why the deep state uses guys like him to create this cloud of doubt. Yeah.
exactly, man.
Yeah.
And it's also they're more vulnerable and open to being utilized and exploited, right? It's
Yeah.
like that's also a factor.
Jules, can you click the next slide? I want to. I'm sorry. I want to see if there is
No, it's
something
okay,
about
buddy.
the next. I want to see
can-
if there's more about the device, but we can.
I
Come back
can
to
read
this if you
some
want.
of this if you want to, if you're skimming over that right now.
Oh, I
because
was
think it
kind
is
of
important.
skimming over my eyes, trying to see if I could find the things I was talking about, like with what because I mean I don't know, because we could most of that page was like all like a bio and Reconasciuto, which
Dude,
we can
but
do
I'm
that.
telling you
but
right now,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is I know it seems like it's, but basically there's a couple of different things that I wanted to highlight and spotlight because I just thought that once again it provides another thread that almost kind of it really dovetails in with these other covert operations that were being conducted around the same time period, which of course he would be involved with if he were one of these covert operatives domestically being utilized, right? And so, at least in the context of this sort of network, right, which very much seems to have been Iran Contra, but far more than that, because George Bush Sr., once you get into Alexander Haig's role and George Bush Sr. and within the Reagan administration, Alexander Haig, when Reagan was the attempted assassination occurred, and it was Alexander Haig who essentially took over the presidency for a few moments, at least during that time, and Reagan never really had much power to begin with, but when he came back from that, he had none at all left, and he had no negotiating room and no leverage, and so essentially it was like kind of the coup, really a soft coup performed within the Reagan administration, even though he was just a political actor to begin with. Still, it's very interesting once you consider Hinckley, right? Because basically Reagan was chosen because George Bush Sr. really didn't have the political clout that was necessary to essentially win the presidency. That was at least, kind of the outlook, I would say, public perception around the situation. So I do think that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm looking at it. Obviously, this is. I think that's the end of the article. Those 2 slides, whatever little piece he does here. But yeah, if there's something, if you want to start at the beginning and like kind of. I mean, I don't know if you want to read the entire thing, but if you want to highlight some of the stuff,
right?
Because I mean, this is mostly just a profile of him. But I mean, definitely there's a shitload of stuff that you're like, holy fuck! Like it does make you really realize how clicked up this dude was, and how fucking spooky he is. I guess is
exactly,
the best way to
especially
put it.
since he's the individual.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out. I guess a little bit of maybe I'll check this out tomorrow. I'm doing another one of the morning dumps. So this might be something I dig into and kind of like scroll through it and like read through it with the audience, because I do want to kind of like go over the Like, there's got to be something in there about the fuel stuff, and I don't know. There might be some more little
There's a
gems that I
lot.
can find there. It's fun, I mean, I'm not going to subject my audience to reading this entire thing together, but I'll probably read more of it on my own time. But kind of maybe find bits and pieces that might be interesting to bring to the people to show what Gunderson was thinking about this at the time. Because I mean,
Absolutely.
I have really gone through the rigmarole of a lot of the different researchers, so I probably should at some point dig into Gunderson's takes on it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good, man. But yeah, Danny Castellero was it definitely like one of the last individuals he was using as a source and meeting with was Reconasciuto, right? And I think it also had to do with the murders of Fred Alvarez and the murders on the Cabazon Indian Reservation. He was really probing that thread up into his death, and specifically right around that time he was going to meet with what he believed to be. He said he was meeting with a source that would serve him the head of the octopus on a platter, and then he was found dead. Right, and like that's what happened to Danny Castellero. And it's amazing when you really get into the thick of the just the extraordinary details of that case, man, because the Inslaw scandal was a window into a world that the general public, it's something most of us aren't even aware of, right? Just kind of the interworkings of these kind of like these what was he? He was basically just this a journalist for this publication that really only covered like tech, right? He was a tech journalist, and so it was very much specific to this industry that has really kind of taken over as far as this new wave of influence in modern Mockingbird, in the context of modern Mockingbird, because that's what I realized through the course of covering the DARPA episode, really, when I found out that, Google, it's just, it's literally like a tool to manipulate public perception, right? It's a search engine where it 100% was built, right, to just entirely disrupt, our ability to, in my opinion, just seek out the truth objectively. It's impossible when you have this controlled search engine and this controlled landscape where you only have the ability to, oh, I don't know, you get certain search results that, of course, only help the establishment, right? Like we're never going to actually come up in the rankings. It's not a natural system, right? It's completely controlled, and I just think that people should be more aware of the fact that, of course, you have CIA backing for the entire program, right? So the operation itself was Alphabet, the CIA's front company for basically the venture capital firm for the CIA was kind of controlling they were the controlling architects of Google itself, right? And so in no way, when you look into LifeLog and the LifeLog project and Facebook and all these new social media platforms, you realize that, right, this new wave of what is sort of kind of, it's interpreted as this new age media landscape kind of providing, this just the notion, right, is that this is going to save freedom of speech and that we will actually have access to honest and true information. But in reality, this is the way that they corral us into these, ideological gulags and these, right? What do you think the social media landscape truly is, right? It is a tool for deception, and mass indoctrination. And so in no way are they going to cease with the online censorship. Like this is
Bring it back
What
to
I
prosciutto. You can do it.
I'm sorry, dude, I can do it. I can do it. But the totalitarian technocracy is something that I think
I
is
keep
just.
expecting you're like, and this is what they were working on, or something.
But it really was
Yeah, it
because
was though. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Riconosciuto is the individual who
He was like
provided the
early
back
tech
door.
shit, Promise Software.
Yeah,
Which, if you
exactly.
understand, like, I'm not a tech guy, but like, sounds to me like looking like when I watched the documentary and kind of got a vague idea. You're like, oh, this is kind of the early building blocks of like what would be used later for how databases, anything works. So like, it's kind of like it makes sense. It's very similar like a Google in a way, and like the way that it's like just pulling
Yeah.
information from different sources and constantly look like, so like it sounds. And it sounds ridiculous when you understand that you're like, oh God, like there were these crazy spy games going on over about this, and when you understand what it is and how rudimentary it was compared to what's going on now. But it's like this was the building blocks, and like it put them at so far ahead of everyone else, being the first ones in on that game, and also having the back doors that people didn't know about with it. So like, I don't know, that was a huge tech leg up, and it really does, when you realize like how far ahead and how balls deep the fucking glowies were into that at that point in time, you're like, what the fuck's going on now? Which is like then what's going on now is like, and actually even this is like kind of stuff that's been going on for a while, but that's like Vault 7 type stuff, which I don't know if you ever like followed that, like all the crazy shit that came out of that. I think Tommy Robin, no, why do I always forget it? Charlie Robinson. He did an episode then a while back that was good. He went into for those who are interested, there's a big deep dive in not all of it, but a lot of the stuff that came out in Vault 7, which essentially was some dude leaked some the fucking CIA shit that they were.
That's why I brought up Seth Rich earlier, man.
Yep.
Right?
Vault
It
7?
was because Pompeo was negotiating behind the scenes with Julian Assange on basically. They were attempting to make sure that he would not release Vault 7 and the Vault 7 documents. And so that was essentially it. Was like, that was for them, the red line was, okay, we're willing to negotiate with you, but do not release the Vault 7 documents. And then I forget what exactly happened. There was something that occurred. I think it was either when Pompeo, he made that outward statement about Julian Assange being some sort of criminal, running from the law and some fugitive. I can't remember the statement that he made, but essentially what had happened was that through the negotiation process, they were attempting to strong arm Julian, and he basically told them to go fuck themselves and release the Vault 7 documents, and that sealed his fate. That was, as far as the detailed context of how that took place. And so it kind of all makes sense to me why all of this occurred right around the time Seth Rich, is found dead, and all of this, and the Podesta emails leak. But anyway, back to Riconosciuto.
Real quick, I do want to bring up a chat. Opperman report has mentioned multiple times something about Gunnarsson being spotted at CIA and that he was talking on the phone with Michael Aquino daily for a while. I've heard that before. I don't remember the specifics.
Do you know why? I mean, it was because he was legitimately investigating the Franklin scandal and the Finders cult, and so he was legitimately looking into Michael Aquino's involvement. I don't think I've seen it portrayed as if he was friends and personally, like as far as like personal friends and very friendly with Aquino.
Who was it? I think it was like Dana Duda's channel once. I saw that she God, who is it? How am I not thinking of his name right now? Program to Kill. Who's that guy? How am I forgetting his name? Dave McGowan. Dave McGowan.
Yeah,
he had a back and forth that he made public with Aquino, and I remember her reading that, and I just feel like the way Aquino started it, was very much like the back and forth was like this formal like work email type vibe.
Yeah.
And so it was like I could totally see, and like our boy, fucking, how am I forgetting his name all over again? McGowan. He wrecked shop, and he was just like fucking dropping his balls on Aquino's face, like fucking dunking on him, dribbling around, making him look fucking silly, like just fucking dunking on him, just like destroying him in the back. Just sick fucking letter back and forth. Like you're like this is in the day where you're like a right letter, the next letter, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, like like that kind of like a debate almost back and forth like that. It was kind of cool, but what I'm getting at is like the way he started off that interaction, I really feel like you could make the case that if someone was trying to get information from you, like a Gunderson, who was actually pursuing him, asking him questions like, "Hey, I'd like you to clear this up. I'm so and so, and blah 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 blah." Like I'm coming from the whatever journalism outlet, blah blah. Like trying to acting like you're inquiring as a journalist or something. I feel like Aquino strikes me as one you could keep on the line and get back and forth, and he would try to give you the. So I could totally see. I mean, I don't know the specifics of this thing here, so maybe if someone showed me what Opperman's talking about, but it's like I could see Gunderson just kind of keeping him on the line, keeping him as a contact for a while, and kind of while he's still like, fuck this guy, but it's like I'm getting information from this guy slowly, so it's like, why burn a source for just for moral indignation? Like, I don't know, because I mean, don't get me wrong, it's dope what fucking McGowan did, but it's also like there's an art to some journalists who will. And it's a balancing act because you also don't want to just become some fucking tool of the elite. But it's also like sometimes it's beneficial to kind of keep things civil and just kind of be like, oh, what happened after that? And like, you don't have to say I agree with that or I love what you did there. But sometimes just being civil to people, they won't even cross their mind that you fucking hate their guts and just keep going along and keep telling you things. You're like, I think you're the devil incarnate, but keep telling me things because I'm going to use this later. Like,
Right.
So
And
I don't
isn't
know. Maybe that's not the case, but I could see that someone doing that with Aquino. Like, I don't know. I mean, shit. Everyone's seen my Gleddy interview. I mean, he was not, and you know what? I will say he was nice enough in person. And it's just like the things he was talking about, I did find reprehensible, and he was not at all remorseful.
It's so funny to watch.
But it was still at the same time, he was like endearing, and like I'd kind of still would want to hang out with him. He's pretty cool.
Oh, shit. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's like if you had the opportunity, would you prefer to hang out with Trump or Kamala, right? It's like that sort of notion where like, yeah, it would probably be cool to hang out with Trump at a party, dude. I'd be honest.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be drinking. But it's just kind of hilarious to me that I don't know. It's a dude, like, how else do you do the job? Isn't it supposed to be like the approach itself is right? The philosophy behind it is, of course, you're not going to, insult them and condemn them, to their face because you're attempting to
extract
just
information.
Exactly. So that's not how the game is played. And unfortunately, if you want to honestly investigate these things with an objective mind, that's the only way to approach, or the source will just instantly shut down. And
I mean, you can, and even if you do want to have their like dunking on them, you do kind of have to lull them in a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, "Hey, faggot!" Like, let's. What'd you do on October 17th, 2002? You're like, well, fuck you.
Right.
Like, I'm not answering you. You're being an asshole. But if you're like, hey, I'd like to clarify, there's been some reports saying this or that, and I'd like to get your take before this runs. I'd hate to spread false information and impugn your character or something like that.
Right.
You easily sell it in a way that you're not lying. You're not fucking, filleting them. You're not saying you agree with them, but you're also being civil and being like, I'm going to get some information out of your ass. It's just being smart. All right. I do have one more chat I did want to read real quick, and we'll get back to what we're talking about. What if the truck bomb wasn't big? It just set off what the ATF was illegally storing in their offices, like tow missiles. Yeah, I usually, anytime I do like an episode with someone and we go into this, and I kind of like to say it's like a, the only topic of the episode is OKC, so we really have the time to unpack it. I do go into that because there's the slew of different ranges of what you believe and what's plausible with the whole, like, do you just accept the official narrative and there was no bombs in the building, there was no illegally stored, it was just the truck bomb. But like the funny thing is it's actually semi sort of the official story that the ATF was illegally storing it, because they actually did like admit that there was like ordinances that they were there. Like, I don't know. Go check out some deep dive. I've definitely talked about this plenty. That is one of the realm of options, and they definitely were storing shit. So it is possible, theoretically, that is what happened. Or that could also be a cover story for the C4. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
I've always found it strange that the rumors and implications of the Whitewater scandal and the Clintons being under investigation at the time, and that potentially all the files and documents had just been moved to the Murrow building, and so it just kind of was convenient at the time.
Did you see that update from Jules in the private chat?
No way.
113 to 210 with Trump in the lead.
Damn.
The
Hey man,
electoral
she is the
votes.
most unlikable candidate of all time. So I don't know how, like I've been saying look, man, who knows what'll happen by tomorrow? But I'm just saying that
I think it's safe. It's almost safe to
that's
call at
what
this point.
that's what I'm saying.
Like, I mean, I don't remember how many electoral votes there are in all. So it's like I don't know, like if she's
I'll
even able
just
to come. I'm sure, like on PBD, I know they were showing like the probability,
yeah.
but I'm sure it's like fucking 98, 99 right now. Like,
It would
and the
have
funny
to.
thing is, even still, I'm still hesitant to be like, call it for Trump, because it's
I
like
know, dude.
I'm still like this whole time. I'm like, I'm a little concerned that like Kamala's gonna win, but like in what the fuck happened here? Because it's
Right.
like I don't know. I think
Amen.
anyone who's got a good reading, like put their like lick their finger, suck it up to the air, was kind of like I think Trump's got this in the bag. Like
Oh yeah.
aside from if there's any fuckery, which I mean I have a hard time believing that like that they pull off fuckery at this point. If that is
No doubt.
seriously the fucking tally at this point, that's
I
wild.
believed that this was in many ways scripted from the beginning, but I also, I mean, how confident are you when you say things like this? I mean, it's like I don't ever feel comfortable speaking in certain terms unless I'm really kind of, only considering my most core values, right? The most, as far as like what I believe to be the ethical values that I hold dearest to, just I think that
This is a pretty good joke if you guys understand it. This deep cut. Trump may win Georgia with no phone calls needed. For those who forget, that was like a
right.
big point
Quid
of
pro
contention.
quo, man.
Yeah, there's a big point of
Yeah.
contention the last go around. He was on the phone with the Georgia governor saying, "Fucking find me however many votes," and a lot of people interpret
Right.
it. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you can interpret it, but it was just funny. People made a big deal out of it. Oh
Mhm.
no, he questioned
But
it.
when we had Brad Binkley, I mean, I just remember that him and Monica and Garland Favorito, the election integrity expert, they did such like extensive work covering Georgia specifically, and the election fraud that took place in 2020. And I'll just say, man, I think election fraud occurs in every election that's ever happened, right? I don't I don't think that in many ways you already know. I believe that the system is sort of like a mask, right? To kind of suggest to the public that they have some sort of accountability card that they can play, and really it helps pacify any sort of revolutionary class that ever existed in society to begin with, let alone them just poisoning us and demasculating, or what's the term when
Emasculating.
yeah, emasculating us, exactly. um to where, like, how are we even going to put up a fight, right, and pose any sort of threat, and that is all by design. In no way is it not, right? And so it's and it's strange to me when people act as if, right, well, our own military couldn't do these extraordinarily totalitarian policies, tyrannical measures, right? Yeah, well, there's a reason the United Nations exists. There's a reason that all they have to do, I mean, people need to trace back the context of all these wars that have occurred in the history of the United States and realize that foreign mercenaries were always employed, probably more so than the American citizens. And that includes in the Civil War, which is amazing, right? Because you have Irish, Chinese, like it's amazing how many individuals were coerced and forced in, enslaved into military service in these wars. And the as far as the perspective of the average American is concerned, and their kind of window into the past, it's entirely based on false premise, misconception, something that that is it's like this cartoonish version of reality. And it's really just frustrating at a certain point, because we have to be able to contend with the realistic paradigm we find ourselves in. And until we can get to that place, I mean, what are we doing? We're chasing our tail. We're just participating every 4 years, and facilitating a system that we all know is completely just, this is a Ponzi scheme. They are right. And so it's just kind of I don't know. Like it makes sense to me because I see the level of indoctrination that exists in society and how it's structured to begin with. Just the Prussian schools, all of it.
Yeah. I
We're
will say
psychologically controlled, right?
tomorrow's morning dump is gonna fucking slap. I have a feeling it's it'll be either like okay or be like really fucking dope because if I kind of almost want Kamala win at this point because it'd just be such a wild story and really kick in the morning. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's gonna be dope in the morning because I have a feeling we're gonna know tonight, judging by. Hey,
We have to,
Jules,
right?
what's the current tally right now? I was about to say let's start doing plugs, but I want to see a final tally. That way, before we go off silently into the night, we can.
Still
If
13 to 10. She's gonna win.
wait, what was you
Maine
say it again?
13 to 10. She's gonna
It's still
win
the same.
Maine,
Okay, okay.
New Hampshire, Virginia, and New Mexico. It looks like, but he's got Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona,
Huh?
and maybe even Nevada. I think that's Nevada.
Okay. Any of those swing states though? Because it's like, I mean, he's got to
Yeah.
have a bunch of swing states. If he's
What
got
we got
210
left
electoral
is
votes already.
Hawaii, Alaska. Okay, that's Nevada. Never mind. All right, so
Mm.
I don't know what's NE.
Nevada, New
Oh,
England. No, I'm just kidding. I know it's not.
I
a
don't know
state.
what the fuck NE is. I'm forgetting the state, dude.
Yeah.
Nevada, California, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. So I know California is a big swing state, right?
I
But
don't think California is a swing state. That's just straight up a blue state.
right. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know because
Yeah.
earlier there was red showing up in Oregon and several different of these squares. So
Well, I don't know. Whatever. We'll just you
We'll see in
guys
the
heard it
morning.
here when we signed off today. Roughly, it was 210 to 113. So if fucking Kamala somehow pulls this off, I call shenanigans at this point. There were shenanigans. Something went fucky. But with that, Austin, you want to let people know where they can find you?
For sure, buddy. I'm
and,
sorry I never
we'll-
got into that. I
Oh, you're
never
good.
got back to Michael Organa dude.
It's all
I
good.
swear.
Whatever.
No, but we really should at some point because I think that the connection to
Hey, what time do you
Cabazon.
wake up? What time do you wake up in the morning? You typically.
dude. I
I don't know your
I'm
schedule. I'm just saying,
usually
like,
up
if,
by
if you're
yeah,
usually
I'm usually
awake
up
for
by
my morning.
6 for me, you know, at the latest. So
Okay.
but
I don't
that's
know. I don't know what your schedule looks like, but if you ever want to pop into one of the morning dumps, I do like it for a fun format for guests where we just kind of talk to the
yeah.
audience, kind of read some articles, like to straight up read them. We like just casually, just very chill, just drinking our
Right.
coffees.
Dude,
Not
that's
like
good.
these where we go on these whole where we talk a bunch of we just kind of like, oh well, that's neat, and then we move on to the next thing. But that would be a good format to dig into some of this stuff
Don't
where
even
I'm
know
sitting
how.
down, I can click through it and be like, whoa. So might be
Right.
fun. But yeah, let people know where they can find you at.
I would love to, buddy. That
And
would
yeah,
be
we
awesome.
need to finish our
Watergate.
our Watergate. Yeah, I think we have
Dude,
one more episode.
I was
We got
so
one.
ready.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
those-
My shit got
no,
fucked.
you're
If you're
you're
ready
good, buddy.
if you're ready on Thursday, we can finish it off Thursday. So
awesome, man.
a little if you're ready, a little. I guess that's a yes. That's a preview to the audience. If you want to get the finale of the finale this time, I know I've said it like 4 times,
this
but the
time for
finale,
sure.
this one for sure. And if not, it's the next one. And if not that one, then the one after that. So, but yeah, pop in. We're gonna finish that one on Thursday. But yeah, let people know where they can find you at.
Will
Did
do,
you have a
brother.
new episode recently, or
No,
you
I'm
went on
honestly-
William's show? That's what it was.
Yeah, I'm going on again on the 8th, this Friday. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're doing Mockingbird Part 2. But I'll be honest, man. Like I had to. I'm really kind of chasing my tail over here, trying to just get my solo project done as well. But it's also like I'm just playing the balancing act. And when Halloween came up last week, I had the opportunity to kind of hang out with my nephew for a bit, so I jumped on that. But I will say that sometimes you have to almost listen to your gut as often as possible, and that's what I've done from day one since I began this process is basically just go with what feels like it has to resonate with me emotionally, of course, or I'm not going to even attempt to approach it in the first place. It has to be natural and genuine and authentic, or I feel like it's just I lose something in the process, and so anyway, I just think
Sorry,
that
I was laughing. I just saw someone posted her voters usually don't vote till 4 a.m.
that's great.
Sorry, go
That's
ahead.
exactly how it works, though.
Yeah. Oh
I'll never.
shit! Huge jump.
up?
Okay,
Oh,
never mind.
fuck.
Someone said 210 to
Whoa,
170.
dude!
What the fuck? How many
When did
electoral?
this happen?
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
What's
Whoa,
going on? That's a
holy
huge
shit.
jump.
Let me pull this up real fast. You want to pull this up real fast?
Yeah. What the
Oh
fuck
yeah,
just happened?
I'm down for that.
Someone was saying they're about to call Cali. That's an insane jump. How many fucking electoral
What
votes
the
that bitch have?
Well, that's the issue, is that like as soon as the states are
Oh, as
called,
soon as his states, look, all these, as soon as they clear, I mean, that may.
Okay.
What the?
Oh, so
yeah,
those
because
are all
it's
in waiting to
what-
clear. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay, well this got more in the closer realm now. All right. Well, fuck. All right. Well, I was wrong. It's close. I don't know
Yeah.
the fuck all that. What the hell happened in
No.
all of fucking 10 seconds?
Dude, 10 seconds, literally.
This is how
1
it
minute.
works, brother.
What the fuck, dude? All right.
No, I
well,
can't imagine that they would allow, as far as just like a monumental victory, only because I think the margin has to be somewhat close, or you're going to lose more people through that process. And I think that every 4 years, inevitably, more people, the veil is removed and falls to the wayside, and they come and join us in the
Yeah.
chat, right? I mean, that's you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and like,
Yeah, if it had been a
and
blowout, then people would
Yeah.
lose faith in those polls even more.
100%,
So it's
man.
like they got to like. I feel like in reality, it's probably really a blowout in reality if we're gonna be real here.
You would
But
think
it's
so.
like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like no, I meant like if you actually were somehow able to. But I don't know, whatever.
Right.
All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. It looks like Kamala's gonna somehow pull off that fucking vertical little statistic jump here in
Right.
a second.
That's so hilarious.
Yeah, so they'll at least get it within close. They might let her win. I don't know if they're gonna be that ballsy. Let her win.
I know,
We'll
right?
see.
That's balls.
Yeah, but
I just polls
anything
are
else you wanna plug?
propaganda, right?
Yeah.
Polls are
Yeah.
propaganda. That's
Yeah.
very clear.
Anything
But
else you want to plug, Austin?
yeah, man, last thing I have to
Mm-hmm.
say is really just that, like, personally, man, like it amazes me the fact that people will viciously defend political actors and politicians, right? Over their closest friends and relatives, right? And people that you should always be concerned about their best interest, and I just witness this often, where you see individuals spitting venom like a snake, man, over this intentional facade that is designed, right? It's designed to destroy family values, right? To completely disrupt society. That is the goal. And so it's just entirely unethical and intended to disrupt our personal lives in every way. And if COVID wasn't an example of that, I mean, my God, I saw the infiltration to the individual level of my family unit, right? Where it's like you're witnessing people just turn against each other, right? That should ultimately only be concerned about the well-being of their family members and their closest friends, right? Because in the end, that I think it trumps all, right? It should be overwhelmingly the most important thing to us. And so I just think that witnessing the destruction of family values and targeting the very moral fabric, at the heart of modern civilization, right? Like, this is an official policy of government coercion, right? And it's what I tweeted earlier, and it's essentially a state-sponsored system of degradation. And I for one am just tired of being complicit, right?
Mhm.
So I love you, brother, as always, man. I had so much pulled up that I didn't even talk about, but I
Till next
apologize.
time.
Yeah, I apologize. I get schizophrenic at times, and I feel just like there's so much that I'm contending with in my mind that it's just kind of like you can't help but be right, that to kind of come off in that way. It's just almost, it's impossible not to when you're kind of embedded in into the details, right, at this level of individual cases to where this is the reason, right? When all these different examples that we point out every time we have a conversation and a discussion, right? That is the reason I have no faith in this current system, right? Because this current system has successfully covered up every last example that we bring to this table. And so in no way do I view, the outcome of a public election, right, as swaying the inevitable consequences of that very system. So that's all I have to say. And find me at the Underclass Podcast. I will desperately be attempting to finish my solo project by next Tuesday. Of course, I just, when I feel at times like I will say, I think maybe it's the election hysteria, right? Just the kind of climax of it all, right? But at times, man, I start to feel overwhelmed. I have to just take a deep breath, and I have to just kind of reflect, like just reposition my perspective and realize what's most important, because you just can't let it affect you to that level, right? It's meant to demoralize us, and we can't let them succeed. So, got nothing but love for all of you that are here. And I'll be getting that Pilgrim Society episode out as soon as possible. And
don't let the terrorists win. You got merch now? What's that on your head?
Hey, brother, what's up, dude?
Hell yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
the
We need to get
Underclass
some Already Dead
Podcast.
merch.
Dude,
By
send
the
me
way-
one.
Yeah.
I know, right?
By the way, we
Hey.
need some Already Dead merch going. I did talk to
Definitely.
Top recently. I think we might start slow rolling back out some of the stuff, possibly some of the old stuff, because he
Awesome, dude.
needs to set it back up. So if you want to see more of that coming, I know you're gonna need y'all to buy that.
You know what we
shit
should
when it
also
drops.
do?
So what's up?
Whenever we have guests, I do like the graphic of the guest graphic, so like we have to I'm going to try and figure out some way where we can
Yeah,
like
if you know how to
implement
do
the
custom
guest.
thumbnails,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that'd be great. I don't know if you saw that where I went on Nephilim Death Squad, kind of like what they did. Like I went on there this week, and they used to use a photo. You used to take a photo. I don't know. There's a way to do it. If you can figure out how to do that, if you that would be great. That would help the show out a lot if we had custom. Those little flashy things help. I am a tech boomer, so I just kind of usually have like stock ones. Like if I'm doing a series, like I'll just like say like I use Nixon for the Watergate series or whatever. So it's like, that's the kind of shit I do. But said fuck, I should have called in. Yeah, call in next time. Call in next
bro.
week. And the next week after that, we'll have Sam. You can call in then. But I do want to let you guys know where to find me. I totally said that wrong. Yeah, YouTube, all major op pictures, Rumble as well. I had a brain fart as I was saying that. I was thinking about something else. I got too many lines crossed. But yeah, if you want to support me, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That gets you the early access. It allows you to be a talking head. You guys should start using that feature more. I'd like to see see some of your beautiful faces alongside us talking to us. So that way you can just hop on. All you just need is just your computer's fucking normal little or even your phone if you got a good connection. Phone's a little sketchy, but yeah, pop in, talk to us. Preferably if you have some sort of even just a headset mic, that'd be nice as opposed to just. But even then, I mean, even if you have a shit like just your computer mic, well, just come on, talk to us. But yeah, you also get the early stuff like the No Way Jose episode that we're gonna do on Thursday. And then I do want to let you guys know I do have those morning streams I'm doing now. But I the $2 has nothing to do with the Patreon. But the highest level of my Patreon is my sponsors. I read them off every episode of my co-host on Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad. Also have at Abrogate D's, at ZOVERACK, at _Infinite Zeal. Jacob Daniel, the Biblical Anarchy podcast. You can follow him at Biblical Anarchy. Then I have Tim Tuttle, the homie that makes these beautiful edits, not the one on this one, but at Jolly on Klebold. Then Will Bell makes this delicious blueberry rabbit eye wine, and then a big fan of the show, Real Josh Elliott. And then also a new one, Torin May. I appreciate all of you guys for the support, help me do what I do. And with that, wait, what the fuck?
What just happened?
I don't know what just happened.
That's weird. Rumble just stopped for no fucking reason. Weird.
Dude, that is
okay,
crazy.
all right. Well, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I don't know what happened to the Rumble chat. That's bizarre. All right. Bye-bye.
Follow Grey Pill.
Yeah. Follow Grey Pill.